All right, welcome to the Clark Athletic Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Today, the UMass Boston Beacons appear in their 6th straight Harbor Invitational Championship game, and they are looking for their first title since 2012, their 9th title overall. So thanks for joining us for today's contest, and we will get you set for the action between the Beacons and the Bridgewater State Bears, who picked up a win in overtime yesterday over Emerson. Beacons got their win yesterday over Fisher. First ever meeting between the two. You were on hand yesterday, Jeff. Jeff Ebbs is alongside former Beacon, played back in 2008 until 2012. What impressed you yesterday about the Beacons' win?
I thought the Beacons' really great defense at the end of the game. I thought their defensive intensity early was lackluster at best, but they really turned it on when they need to, particularly in the last 6-7 minutes of the game. They created turnovers, got out in transition. It was really how they won the game, because offensively they really struggled for most of the game, so they're going to have to be better in that area today.
All right, Charlie Mitchell was outstanding in the game. He had 12 points. So we'll take a look now at the all-time series between the two teams, Beacons and Bears. It's a small edge for UMass Boston. It's the first ever meeting in this invitational, which will make it interesting, a championship battle. Last year, the two teams went head-to-head in January, and UMass Boston pulled out a 7-point win. From what you remember in your playing career against Bridgewater State, what makes this team difficult to play?
Yeah, offensively, traditionally, they always spread you out. They really get deep in the corners, deep on the wings. They really spread you out. They'll normally have at least one or two guys that are particularly athletic that can get to the basket, and that's a really tough combination. I think it's going to be particularly tough for this young Beacons group. What I noticed yesterday is they really were over-helping, over-rotating, and leaving their feet a lot. So hopefully that was something that they can put in their minds from yesterday, stay on their feet today and defend the three-point line. I think this Bridgewater team, just from looking at some of the stats in the game yesterday, seems like they actually want to get to the basket, use their size and physicality a little bit. So we'll see what we get from Bridgewater early.
We'll have more on the Bears in a moment. Let's look at tonight's player to watch. It's Ty Lee, sophomore guard from Boston, another in-state recruit for Jason Harris. Lee had 7 assists yesterday in the victory, and he's been off to a great start as a sophomore. One of the leaders of the team. It's a younger group.
Yep. My favorite thing about Ty is that I just think he really understands pace as a sophomore now. He's always under control. He never rushes. He's never overly aggressive. Generally makes the right play, which is really what you want to see from your point guard. And hopefully he can start to bring along some of our other young guards too, the Mitchell twins, Mike Boyd. I think they all have a tendency to play a little fast right now. He really is under control pretty much every time I've seen him.
All right, let's take a look at the on-the-year statistical look between for UMass Boston. Again, off to a 3-0 start. It's their second 3-0 start under Jason Harris. They're looking to go to 4-0 for the first time since the 2014-15 season. As you take a look at both teams head-to-head, you talked about how Bridgewater's been a good scoring team. They have allowed 6 points more, as they have a minus scoring margin. Beacons have been getting out-rebounded by almost 7 a game, and that's key because Bridgewater's got a lot of size, and that could cause issues.
Yeah, the big thing for this Beacons group with their size is they just have to not get dominated on the boards. Talking yesterday and watching that game, if they can stay within 6, they're going to be pretty happy with that. If they can keep it between 6, 7, 8 a game, any more than that, it's going to start to get out of hand. It's going to be a real challenge for them today.
All right, so those are the numbers head-to-head. Bridgewater and UMass Boston. Both teams are getting their starters out onto the floor.
And Brendan, the stat you love right there that's really impressive for a young group is the 10 turnovers a game. That's, I said to Seth yesterday, I'm not sure how sustainable that is for a young group, but 10 a game is unbelievably low. If they can keep that, like I said, the rebounding margin close, the turnovers low, they're going to be in every game they play.
So the Beacons will get their starters out on the floor in a moment. You played for the legendary Charlie Titus here at UMass Boston. From what you've gotten to know out of Jason Harris in year 3, off to a 3-0 start, the record speaks for itself. But what has impressed you about Coach Harris early on in his time here at the Beacons?
Yeah, I said this yesterday. I really can't say it enough, too. I can't say enough good things about Coach Harris, everything he's done in his 3 years here. And now with his guys, this roster is, he's entirely responsible for, so he's going to get to grow and develop it. What I always say about basketball at this level is if you play hard, you play together, you limit turnovers, and you share the ball, you're going to be in games no matter what your group is, and I think they kind of check all 4 boxes there.
There's Coach Harris, 7 years at LIU Brooklyn as an assistant coach, and he's in year 3 with the Beacons. establishing his ground here with the program.
Now, that was the thing that struck me right away 3 years ago when he started. We had a lot of kind of unknowns on the roster, and I wasn't really sure what we were going to get in that first season, but right away I couldn't believe how hard he got them to play. Like I said, take almost any group and get them to play that hard, you're going to be in every game.
The head coach of Bridgewater State is Joe Faraboa. He's been there for 26 years. Faraboa, talking with him a moment ago before the game, he said we have to take advantage of our size, like we just spoke about, and then also have to limit the speed of the Beacons.
Yeah, that's what you saw from the Beacons yesterday in the second half when they started imposing their will, is getting out in transition. If Bridgewater lets that happen, it's going to be a long day for them.
33rd Annual Harbor Invitational Championship game is underway. UMass Boston against Bridgewater State. The Beacons are looking for their first title in 5 years. Strong move up and under Joseph Carty. He had a huge game the other night.
Yeah, I think the position there is just a little bit too deep. Kevin Lewis-Jean's going to do a better job of pushing him out away from the basket.
Carty played 41 minutes, an overtime win over Emerson. No turnovers for the big man, but also managed to pull off a huge double-double. Beacons trying to set up the offense. 7 to shoot. Lee makes a quick move. They kick it out. Charles Mitchell throws up a 3, no good. They get the board back down, out to Michael Boyd. He'll swing it, jumper off the mark by Sinelli, and they'll regroup.
Good reset.
Lee dishes underneath. Boyd fires and knocks it down. That's Kevin Lewis-Jean, the senior from Hyde Park.
And that's a shot he'll make really consistently. He can hit from anywhere 15 to 18 feet. If he's open, he's going to take it and hit consistently.
They'll dump it into Ward. Rayshawn Ward kicks out. Carty, the left-hander, driving down the lane. And a blocking foul against UMass Boston.
Now, you obviously don't like the blocking foul there, but already I like the much slower closeout from what I saw yesterday, not overreacting to the deep pass.
And they give it to Kevin Lewis-Jean on the baseline. First on the Beacons. And they'll reset the clock to 20 seconds. So we're good to go. Off the catch, triple in and out from DeAndrade. Beacons wrestle for the board, they get it. Lee has been the facilitator. We talked about him pregame, 7 assists yesterday. He's averaging 5 a game right now. Mitchell way off from 3.
And see, he has the ability to do that, but those are the shots that you don't want to fall in love with, is the stare you down 3 is what we talked about yesterday. You want to get 3s out of ball movement and rhythm. When they get that, they're going to hit them. Those stare you down 3s, those take a while to get.
Beacon setting up some half-court pressure. Talked about Carty yesterday, 33 for Bridgewater. 8 of 18 from the floor. 24 points, 18 rebounds. Maybe the most impressive stat, no turnovers. Nice lay-in on the block by Brian Grant, sophomore also from Hyde Park. So far it looks like the Bears have gotten the easier looks. Kevin Lewis-Jean fires and connects.
And that's that shot we talked about. Bridgewater's going to find that out in a hurry, that if he's open, foul line extended, he's going to take that and hit pretty consistently. He's gotten really comfortable with that shot.
Kevin Lewis-Jean yesterday, 12 points on a high percentage, 6 of 8 shooting in 26 minutes. Contested 3 by Carney, lost out of bounds by Grant.
Kevin is a great guy in the middle to have start these games, be on there. He doesn't do anything outside of himself that he can't do. He takes good shots, knows when to move the ball, knows when to shoot. Just very solid.
We are 3 minutes in, first half, 4-4. Low scoring early, nice looking shot. Turnaround jumper by Grant. And pardon me, that's DeAndrade. Rocky DeAndrade, senior from Mansfield. Bridgewater State 3-2 coming in. Overtime victory yesterday to kick off their invitational game. Baseball pass down the floor. Beacons force the turnover. Here's Charles Mitchell, open three. Barnes!
That's Mike Boyd right there,
Boyd.
Brendan. I was just going to say a minute ago, I loved his attack of the basket beforehand. I love him aggressive early. They need much more from him. He really has the ability to impact the game on offense. We didn't get a ton from him yesterday. Hopefully he's a little more aggressive today.
Michael Boyd, one of 9 freshmen on the roster for UMass Boston. Nice scoop and score, Rocky DeAndre.
Spend some time with these guys in the first semester, really all fall. The thing that really impressed me about Boyd, too, is his body. He's a little bigger, more physical than Charles and Charlie Mitchell. He really has the ability to get into the lane, put his shoulder through you, and finish in traffic.
5'9", 185. This is Boyd now facing up, pulls up, got it! Instant offense for UMass Boston, Michael Boyd.
That's a great sign for UMass right there.
10-8 Beacons. We are 4.5 minutes in first half.
He never looked comfortable yesterday. He had a couple of attacks in the basket early that didn't finish, didn't try his outside shot very much. He just never looked comfortable to me.
Ward comes up empty from 3. Beacons look to extend the lead. Great dump by Lee. Kevin Lewis-Jean floats it up and in. Well, half the points belong to Lewis-Jean and the other half to Boyd.
I remember when Lewis-Jean first got here, we weren't even sure that was a player that was going to make the roster, and he's really transformed his game.
Mitchell lays it in smoothly. Out of the turnover, you can see Jason Harris has 3 reserves set to check in. He wants that pressure to stay feisty defensively. 6-point edge for UMass Boston.
Yeah, and you just said it, Brendan, feisty. Their defensive intensity right from the tip today, much, much better than yesterday. Yesterday, very sluggish today, right from the tip. High intensity on that end.
And another whistle against the Beacons. Timeout on the floor, 14:35 to play in the first half, and UMass Boston leads 14-8. You're watching UMass Boston basketball on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The 5-campus UMass system is the university that educates the workforce of Massachusetts. We recognize that we are truly here for a reason, and that recognition inspires us and drives us every single day.
'33rd Annual Harbor Invitational on the campus of UMass Boston. Jeff Ebbs alongside. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for joining us today. Beacons are back in this game again, and from what you can recall, you get some pretty good draws in this tournament. First time we'll see Bridgewater, and we're seeing it right now, Bridgewater and UMass Boston go head-to-head in the Invitational. Nice cleanup by the Bears inside off the bench. Dakari Hannah-Wernham, the senior from Boston.
And these guys are going to find out in a hurry how important this game is. A lot of them are just going to, they're kind of learning to be Beacons right now, take a lot of pride in that. But as they get older, they're going to learn how important this game is. They want to win and get their hands on some hardware.
Charles' twin brother, Charlie Mitchell, out on the floor, dashing down the lane, tried to lay it in. Rebound to the Bears. They tried to cherry pick up the floor. Carney was waiting to lay it in. Still a 4-point lead for UMass Boston.
And remember, Hawkins, the Bridgewater State transfer, he only played about 10 minutes a game for them last year, so he's got a little added incentive.
Inside, they jam the lane on Sinelli. Loose ball, diving at it. Hannah-Wernham, Beacons get it back. Shot clock is still down to 7. Charlie Mitchell too strong. And a nice board by Hannah-Wernham. Senior at 6'8" off the bench. Played his high school ball at Tech Boston Academy.
What I would say about Bridgewater here, too, if you're a BSU fan, is similar to what I said about UMass yesterday, is they need to play with a lot more pace. And that's not necessarily up and down, baseline to baseline. They need to move and pass with more pace on the offensive end. They actually seem a little sluggish themselves today.
Bridgewater as a team coming in shooting just 42%. 3-ball rattles out. A good look in the corner for Iser Barnes. Veteran guard off the bench.
And you see right here, they don't have as much team speed as the Beacons, but they come up, they're pretty content to wait until all 5 guys get up. There's no break, no secondary break there. Nice pass.
Cardi on the back door feeds the big man, Hannah Warnham, with the flush to make it a 2-point game. Cardi's that do-it-all player for them. He can survey the floor from the outside, make plays, and make everyone else better. That's the ideal player you want down in the middle.
Yeah, if you have the luxury to have a player that can really control the game on the offensive end, it's really gonna pay dividends as the year goes on. You never get out of sorts. You never get outside of yourself. You probably won't see this game get away from Bridgewater today.
Bears at 3-2 overall, and I'm sure Joe Faribault will not let that happen. He's in year 26. He's been around a long time. Of course, Bears play in the MASCAC. Nice move by Charlie Mitchell, but he got stuffed. Put back in by the Beacons on the tip.
You see the offensive rebounding really impressive early, giving themselves extra opportunities.
James Hawkins, senior forward from West Medford off the bench. Jason Harris shouting for his team to remain on top of things defensively. Team's responding.
Now, one thing we talked about defensively with this Beacons group is their versatility. They can really switch everything, get in passing lanes. You're seeing that almost every possession.
Timeout on the floor. We'll take it to Beacons by 4 with 11:52 to play in the first half.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris. The subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Back at the Clark Athletic Center, Beacons and Bears clashing in the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational Championship game. This is the 6th straight trip for UMass Boston to get in this game, so they are due. They are due for a title. They haven't gotten one since your senior year, 2012.
Correct, yep. And that was, my senior season, we didn't have the most successful season. We had a lot of turnover, a lot of freshmen. And it was, definitely something we were trying to do is get those young guys to grow and develop. So that was one of the highlights of the year for us.
Out of the media timeout, Bridgewater basketball. Cardi, a rare turnover. He didn't have any in 41 minutes yesterday, and he just turned it over there.
And I just want to touch on that defensive versatility again. We talk about being able to switch everything, all 5 positions. The other thing that allows you to do, you see UMass with just 3 fouls halfway through the first half. It allows you to play defense without fouling. You don't put yourself into bad spots. And I think you'll see that all day today, switching a lot of things out on the perimeter.
Beacons try to set up the offense. 10 on the shot clock for Iser Barnes. Little ISO ball, trying to recollect his own miss. Clock does reset. Luckily for Barnes. Has it in the corner, and a whistle from the paint. And I think the officials are noticing what we might have just said. Did they reset the clock when they shouldn't have? And that's what they're going to do. They're going to call it a shot clock violation, and that gets Jason Harris out of his seat.
Yeah, and I think it's the right call, but the only one that might bother you about that is how long it took for them to call it. And I think that's really what, Coach Harris, I think he knows it's the right call, but that's going to frustrate you when it takes another 5 or 6 seconds to call it.
Right. Surprising thing is Bridgewater sideline didn't seem too bothered by it, but definitely surprising. Barnes did not glaze the rim on that runner. So a couple of turnovers back-to-back. Bears have it inside. They go to their senior big, and he scoops it up and in.
And again, that's deep position right there. That's the only thing that's gotten UMass into trouble here early. Defensively, they've been good, but you can't give up the deep position.
Dakari Hannah-Warnham has 6 points to lead all Bears scores. Boyd comes right back. He's got 8.
I love his aggression today. I think he needs to do this on a more consistent basis. He certainly can. He has the ability to do it.
Boyd looking good. 3 of 4 from the field. 2 for 2 from 3. And they're going to hit Charlie Mitchell with the foul. Twin brothers. Definitely get those two confused rather easily. They got the same hairdo, the same body type. I guess you have to look at the shoes. Charles has got the pink kicks.
It's taken me a while for a semester here. I think I'm finally starting to get it. Great kids, though.
Yeah, that must be a handful in the strength practices to figure out which one is which.
I told them to bear with me. I can't tell you how many times I've messed it up. I told them to just bear with me a couple months.
And we're coming up on the midway point of the first half. Beacon's ball, leading by 4. Charlie and Charles both on the floor together. Sorry, Jeff.
Believe it or not, their game actually is pretty different, though. You're going to see Charles really float around the perimeter. He slides without the ball, gets a lot of threes up. Charlie loves to attack the basket.
Charlie's 4. Charles is 5. He's got 5 to shoot. This is Charles. Steps back, fires for 3. Got it! Charles Mitchell draining from way downtown. It's the largest lead of the afternoon for UMass Boston at 7.
And that's why it's easy to be excited about this young group. You'll see them make some plays that you can only describe as just special plays.
They are harassing defensively, and they're going to hit Kevin Lewis-Jean for his 2nd on a blocking foul.
One thing we talked about yesterday, as small as this UMass team is some of their smallest guys are their longest guys. I think they're really deceiving. I think it's going to be a frustrating group to have to come in here and play against.
5th Beacon's foul. And these are our first free throws of the afternoon. Jonathan Mercado off the bench, freshman from Lynn. So Cardi will get his first rest. Ultimately, what do you think has keyed the Beacon's solid start in the first half?
I think they've been much cleaner offensively.
Okay.
We mentioned Bridgewater not playing with pace. I think the Beacons are playing with great pace here. They're passing hard, cutting hard, being highly aggressive, getting to the basket. It's definitely the style they want to play.
UMass Boston turnover, little 2-on-1 break. Fancy scoop in by Brian Grant. Beacons lead back to 4. Charles and Charlie play catch, and Charles knocks down the 3 with his twin brother assisting.
Yeah, and if you don't close his airspace, he's going to take that really confidently. He's going to knock most of those down. Bridgewater right back.
Charles Mitchell has 8 points. He and Boyd are the team's leading scorers in this game. Mitchell leading the Beacons this year, averaging 14 points a game. First look of the Beacons reserve. Oh, I'm sorry, Sinelli coming back in. Sinelli, the team's 2nd leading scorer. For the most part, it's been about a 4-point game in this first half. Beacons edging with under 9 to play. Here's Charlie Mitchell. The runner comes up empty. Strong outlet to Grant. Bears want to keep running. Sets up an open 3. St. Louis too strong. Charlie Mitchell the board. It's 3-on-2 Beacons if they push. Bounce pass almost laid in. Good look.
That was a great recovery defensively. Bridgewater definitely starting to fall into the kind of UMass trap, though, playing up and down, baseline to baseline. I think that's going to get them some trouble if they keep playing like that.
A lot of young legs on that Beacons sideline. Told you already, 9 freshmen. They're off to a 3-0 start. They're looking to go to 4-0 for the first time in 3 years. They've never been 4-0 with Jason Harris as head coach. Here's Ty Lee, shovels it inside. They kick out. 3-ball, short from Taylor. Great look by Lee, and he does such a good job putting everyone in the right spot. Lewis Jean rolls away. Taylor will swing it around. Lee's got it back. 10 on the shot clock. Lee has to make something happen. Drives right side, throws it up, doesn't get the friendly roll. Bears get the stop. Outlet to Grant to the holes. Lays it in, yes. 2-point lead for UMass Boston. Nice look inside, squeezed in, count the basket. Sinelli.
I think right on cue. I think you're going to see Bridgewater switch to the soft 2-3 zone, try to slow the game a little bit. Last couple of possessions, UMass a little stagnant against it.
Timeout on the floor, under 8 to play in the first half. UMass Boston with a 2-point lead. I think you want to make it 4. Yeah, 4-point lead. They're looking for a 3-point play when we come back.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
They played like yesterday. They'd be getting rolled right now. They were bad yesterday.
Welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center in Boston, Mass. UMass Boston Athletics strength and conditioning coach Jeff Ebbs is alongside former Beacon basketball player. And I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thank you for watching us today. It's the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational Championship game. Beacons are in it for the 6th straight year. And Bridgewater meeting the Beacons for the first time in this invitational. I thought they counted the basket, but I guess they didn't. It's only one shot. Interesting. So the basket must not have counted. The foul had to have come before the shot, before the timeout. So we were misled. Either way, 2 free throws for Sinelli to make it a 4-point game.
UMass in a little full court pressure now.
They have Sinelli and Lee at the top of that defense.
Speaking of strength and conditioning, Sinelli's a guy that's really worked on his body, probably as hard as anybody this offseason. He's added about 10 pounds. He's so athletic to begin with, but he's got a little more size to him.
This is a foul against the Beacons. I believe this is their 6th as a team. So they're 1 more away from the 1-and-1 bonus. Beacons go to the bench. Another freshman checking in, John Tesson. 6'2" forward from Bridgewater. Funny enough, he's playing in Boston. On the inbounds play, jumper misfired by Rayshawn Ward. Beacons off to the races. Here's Lee all the way down the left side. He got rejected. Carty's running the floor. Here he comes. Carty is up with the left hand. The putback is offensive interference. Yes, no basket.
I think that's one of the rare times you're going to see Ty Lee out of control there. I think that's the type of situation where you want to just probe the defense and then pull it back out and get into something. Really didn't have numbers there.
26-22, UMass Boston. Here's Lee, fakes the pass, floats it up and in.
And you see just with a little bit of ball movement there, you're going to see the gaps in that zone start to open up. It's critical you get ball reversals against the zone. It can't just be one pass and a 3.
That's Lee's first basket of the day. Cardi comes up empty from distance. Beacon's largest lead was 7. They can try and extend it here. Tesson running the 5-man in the middle. Boyd will roll it out with 15 on the shot clock. Boyd on the head fake, bounce pass to Tesson. Off the big toe, out of bounds.
You hate the turnover there, but that's actually a great possession. They get 2 ball reversals. They get a nice attack at the wing.
You can really tell there's an emphasis on patient offense here today out of Jason Harris's squad.
Yeah, and it's going to be critical all year because with a young group, if you start to let them play too much, they're going to get really outside of themselves. They're going to get an education really how to play the college game every day. Every day is an invaluable experience for them.
Harris was at LIU Brooklyn for a number of years as one of the top assistant coaches.
What I can tell you pretty confidently about this group early on, just knowing some of these guys for only a couple months, is if this group is able to stay together for 3 or 4 years, this is going to be a special group.
A whistle on the floor against Bridgewater, just the team's second foul of the first half with 5:22 to play. They'll give the foul to Grant, who's been the transition machine in this game. Boyd will catch, gives it a lead. Tesson the screen. Lee stops, kicks out. Charles Mitchell, runner good.
I think one thing you're going to notice about this Bridgewater zone is compared to the one Fisher played yesterday, Fisher would really pack it in 2 steps below the 3-point line, almost daring you to shoot. Bridgewater's really extending their 2-3 zone, and that's what's going to happen if they keep doing that. UMass going to be able to use their athleticism, get into gaps.
Mitchell is the first player into double figures with 10. Bridgewater turns it over. Just pulling up the numbers right now. It has not been a clean basketball game from Bridgewater's standpoint.
You watch right here. Look at where their guards are on this 2-3. We got 2 steps on, 2 steps above the 3-point line, really extending it.
Bears have turned it over 6 times. Beacons just 3 times today. Mitchell trying to lay it in. Good defensive pressure. Cardi will bring the ball up. One thing that is looking good for the Bears, they're shooting 55% from the floor, 11 for 20. The Beacons are shooting 44%, 12 of 27. Tesson rips it down. Beacons on the move. It's 5-on-4. Mitchell wide open. Yes!
UMass shooting it really well today, but in general, the way they're going to be able to get on top of you is by playing a higher possession game. They're going to get more possessions than you, even if they shoot a lower percentage. Going to be able to win a lot of games like that.
Beacons are 5 of 10 from 3. Bridgewater 1 for 7. 9-point lead for UMass Boston. That is the largest of the day. We'll take the timeout and come back for the wrap of the first half.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Back at the Clark Athletics Center, 3:58 to play in the first half. 9-point lead for UMass Boston. They're dropping 3 balls, 5 for 10. The Bears just 1 for 7. And you've been concerned, Jeff, about Bridgewater's defense.
Yeah, they're sitting in a 2-3 zone, which, we just talked a minute ago off air. I think a lot of teams are going to play, some form of a zone against UMass and try to limit their athleticism. What I would say about Bridgewater's zone right now is they're really extending it. And what's going to happen is UMass is going to use their athleticism to get into gaps, make an extra pass, and get a lot of layups. Even when they're not scoring right now, they're getting great opportunities. So see if Bridgewater adjusts.
They fed Rayshawn Ward. He couldn't get it. Mitchell off the catch. The putback pretty by Sinelli. staying with the play.
Yeah, and that's a special play. What I love about Snelly is he's the type of guy that can impact the game without ever having a play call for him.
Beacons simply look like the team that wants it more right now. An 11-point lead. Ward gets in a traffic jam, kicks out. Drive on the baseline, Ward for 3. And an over-the-back foul against Bridgewater's Ryan Carney. It's just the 3rd on the Bears today. An 11-point lead, and the Beacons have the basketball.
And you got to love the gang rebounding on both ends. Beacons really own the defensive boards, gang rebounding, highly aggressive on the offensive side too.
Right now on the boards, Beacons have the edge by 4, and that was a concern we had for UMass Boston coming in. Could they handle the size of these Bears? And so far, so good. And
like I said, I think if they consistently keep the rebounding battle within 5, even if they're losing it, they're going to be in these games. If they're fortunate enough to win the rebounding battle, it's going to be hard to imagine them not winning that game.
Charlie Mitchell, he gets stuffed on the foul line with 4 on the shot clock. Nice move to the basket. Carney for 2. That little hesitation move to make it a single-digit deficit again. Ty Lee. Tesson drew the foul. Might have sold it a little bit there, but well done by the freshman.
I've really liked him in his first action here. He's come in, he hasn't tried to force offense, which a lot of young players will do. He's just letting the game come to him.
He won't be shooting. The whistle on the floor.
I think that was one of my biggest complaints about UMass yesterday, is a lot of guys looked like they were trying to create offense rather than just running offense. Today is almost the exact opposite.
Nice head fake to set up the jumper for Taylor. No good. We're coming up on 2 minutes to play. First half, Beacons by 9. Shoveled. Cardi dished it off to his teammate, and they couldn't finish. How about Hannah Warnham trying to head it back in? That's never seen that one before. 6'8" center will head to the free throw line. Beacons are at 7 team fouls, so 1 and 1 for the rest of the period. How about this? I mean, this is only our 5th and 6th free throws of the game between the two teams. That's certainly kept the pace moving today.
Yeah, pretty clean defensively. And if you're Bridgewater State, you almost want to be a little concerned about only the 4 fouls, because I think there's a difference between defending without fouling and then just not being aggressive enough.
Sure.
I think UMass scoring at a pretty high rate right now. I think you'd like to see Bridgewater be a little more aggressive defensively.
Pair of makes, 7-point game.
You see there's just not a lot of ball pressure here. UMass kind of doing what they want on the offensive end.
Lee screen and pop the floater, short by Taylor. Miscollected by Charlie Mitchell, a fresh shot clock. With 90 seconds left in the first half. Last year the Beacons had a 9-point win over these Bears. Lee drew the foul. It's on the floor. The 5th against Bridgewater. They'll give it to Grant. That's his 2nd. No one in foul trouble either. Kevin Lewis-Jean did pick up his 2nd sort of early in the half, but no one with much concerns. Now they'll get Grant out of the game with the 2 fouls, even with a little bit more than a minute left. Curious why there is so much space to let Lee do his work here.
And Lee's the type of player that he can really, pretty much get to wherever he wants to on the floor. He's not going to shoot the 3.
3 to shoot. Mitchell gets it off, never hit the rim, so it's a violation. It's almost like they're trying to be too patient at times offensively, just trying to get the best look, and younger players got to keep an eye on that shot clock.
Yeah, they ran into this problem a little bit yesterday, with about 8 or 7 minutes left in the second half. It looked like they were trying to cruise to the finish line. They kind of stopped running their sets. Sometimes you just got to ignore the clock and just go play. More often than not, you're going to get what you want.
61-57 win in their first ever meeting with Fisher. Miscollected, Hannah Warnham, plus the foul. 5-point game. Bernard Taylor with his first foul with under 40 seconds. Now, the Beacons' lead was once 11. Now it's down to 5. Make it 4. Four is the number we've stood for most of the half anyway, so it's sort of representative of how the game has gone. Got a 9-second difference, shot clock and game clock.
This is what we saw yesterday at the end of shot and game clocks. They go to this horn set with 2 high posts. Going to let one of their guards, Lee in this case, going to let him play off this high screen.
Boyd out of the head fake. Little shake and bake. Kicks out, jumper, good to the baseline. James Hawkins. 10 seconds left. Bridgewater trying to make a quick play, and it is knocked out of bounds by UMass Boston. Not sure why Bridgewater was in such a hurry there with plenty of time.
Yeah, it's just not good game management there at the end of the first half. It was a critical stop for UMass right here.
Yeah. 6-point lead. It's a great play, too, by Boyd. 6 seconds for the Bears. Here's Carty, lets it go. Too strong, that is all they'll get. UMass Boston with a 6-point lead as we head to halftime. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back for halftime coverage here at the Clark Athletic Center. UMass Boston 37, Bridgewater State 31.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Hi, my name's Carl Joseph. I'm currently a criminal justice major. I'm a senior. I am from Brockton, Massachusetts. In basketball, I play small forward / power forward, and in track, I'm a high jumper. Basketball has always been my first love. The favorite part was probably our win over MIT. Like that was tremendous. I almost came to tears just from where the program has come from where I first came here to where we are now. It's just amazing, and I love it. Honestly.
Hey, welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center. We have Jason Harris here, head coach of the Beacons in his 3rd season. Coach, what stood out in that first half to get you guys a 6-point lead?
I do think we competed on the glass. I think we're playing a little slow on offense, but our kids are playing physical and they're competing, and that's why we're in the game right now.
How about Michael Boyd and Charles Mitchell? They seem like they've been the leaders so far in this game.
Offensively, yeah, I'd still like to see their defense not be predicated on the shooting percentage, but hey, they're giving it to us today, so got to commend them.
Last thing, what needs to change for the second half to pull this one out? It's been a while since you guys won this Invitational.
Yeah, transition defense, we got to continue to compete. I mean, Bridgewater's a good team, so Joe's going to have them ready to go the second half. So we got to put together 40 minutes of basketball for the first time all year.
Best of luck.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, we'll be back for more halftime coverage. Beacons have a 37-31 lead.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
An obligation not merely to work towards a personal best in the classroom or in the sport we love, but rather an obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. For Special Olympics athletes, victory belongs not only to those who first cross the line, but to all of those who compete and endure.
They are challenged in ways we cannot imagine. They are survivors who test themselves harder and with greater joy than we will ever know.
Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn, as we all do, that in giving we receive so much more in return.
Sport ennobles us, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
Basically said that yesterday. He was like, because he basically said we'll take the win, but we're not happy with how we played. He was like, we'll go in and talk about some things and hopefully remember the lessons from today, take it in tomorrow. And then he paused and he was like, people don't remember what I say though, because I made fun of your shirt last time you're wearing the same one. Like, jeez. Love's coming at him. What are we doing now? Highlights? Yeah, we're going to highlights.
Back at the Clark Athletic Center, Beacons have a 37-31 lead. And yep, we're good. Sorry about that. We're getting you halftime coverage. Beacons up 6. We just heard from Jason Harris, the head coach. Let's run into some of the highlights, Jeff, of that first half. Beacons getting a lot of efforts from many guys so far.
Yeah, they've been really solid on both ends. I thought the biggest takeaway from what I just heard Coach say at the half is he actually talked about getting back in transition against Bridgewater, which is a little bit of a role reversal. I know the Beacons, typically the team, like to get out and run, but he's right. Bridgewater getting a lot of their good looks in transition right now.
It's Barnes making a 3. He had a couple, and then here's the breakaway by Charles Mitchell. He led all his scorers with 13. Offensively, Coach just told us that he likes what Charles Mitchell, and Boyd have given them.
Yeah, they've been really aggressive offensively. Mitchell's always going to be, both Mitchells really, Charlie and Charles. Boyd, yesterday we talked about it, I wish we saw him much more aggressive, and we're getting that from him today. And I also liked what he said about not letting your shooting percentage dictate what you do defensively. You got to bring that intensity whether it's going down or not. I think they're doing a pretty good job with it today.
And here, this is Lee going to the hole. Their defense inside, they've had a number of blocks so far, too, Bridgewater.
Yeah, and you don't want to get frustrated with that if you're UMass. I think you just got to stay aggressive, keep attacking the basket. Especially when you're going to be the undersized team, the last thing you can do is be afraid to attack. You just got to keep attacking, and live with the result no matter what.
All right, so we will go to a break, and we'll come back with some, we'll head to the highlights against Fisher College from yesterday, and then we'll get some stats from that first half.
Hey, soldier, my swag. Y'all can't catch up. Hey, yo, Bab, let them know how you looking up. New G-Shock, check, level big, BC shirt with fresh big jeans. Black card, spinning when I hit the monster. You can't catch me, I'm serious. Marco, 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 took my car to the mall when I blacked out. Now my closet full of J's like a crack house. Selling so high you would think it was Shack House. Whip so big that it beat when I backed out. Like, hey yo, tell that move it's bad Weezy Mr. Get him where the Guinness goes. Step up in the room, got your ice in my chain beat on the bed. Screaming like they angry. Some call me cocky, but how could you blame me? And all the like me because my money lame. And I'm still the first to rock, man. First to put ice in a G-Shock. She like my new G-Shock. Check your level king bad. BC shirt with fresh big jeans. Black card spinning when I hit the mall. They can't catch me. You gotta go in one time. It's Marco, 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 Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo, Marco Polo. Let's go. Never been fake cause all the girls love official. SOD cause girls love militias. I'm on another level. I'm in my zone. Black car, white rims, can they both get along? This is not the Matrix, but I am the Oracle. Do you want to get with me? The question is rhetorical.
All right, we're back here inside the Clark Athletics Center. Beacons lead 37-31. And we'll get to some of the numbers in just a moment from that first half. Here they are, as the Beacons came out and shot up over 40%. So did Bridgewater, 48% from the field. BSU goes just 1 for 9 from 3. And another good sign, Jeff, Beacons still have the rebounding edge.
Yeah, if they're, and we talked about this a little bit halfway through the first half. If they're going to win the rebounding battle, it's pretty hard to imagine them losing that game. UMass right now they're going to want to win a lot of games off creating extra possessions because I don't think they're going to shoot a high percentage for a while, and I'm not sure they're going to win a lot of rebounding battles. So if they're going to shoot 48% from the field and out rebound Bridgewater, it's hard to imagine them losing this game.
Beacons turned it over just 4 times. Bridgewater only 6 times. The big difference is definitely from 3. Beacons go 5 for 12, shooting 41% from deep. Just a one rebound differential. Bridgewater gets 15 points out of the bench, which was good to see. Carty's off to a slow start today. He's just 1 for 5 from the field, 2 points for a guy who dropped 24 yesterday.
Yeah, and he honestly doesn't look like he's been particularly aggressive. I'm sure it's a point of emphasis for UMass after the game he had yesterday. But if you're one of the better players on the court, you'd like to kind of impose your will, especially when your team needs it. So I'm sure as the game starts to dwindle away, if it stays like this, he will start to do that.
Beacons have swarmed the inside defensively, gang rebounding and gang defense so far. We'll look at the highlights from men's hockey yesterday, and then we'll get second half action started between UMass Boston and Bridgewater. And that eventually led to a Beacons men's ice hockey team victory. As we're back for more basketball, 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational Championship game. And second half is coming up. Beacons right now, Jeff, have the lead by 6. We definitely heard from Coach. He thinks they need to play a bit better defensively. Any other keys to you that stand out for UMass Boston to take care of business?
I think if they keep playing the way that they are right now, I think they're going to come out with a win this game. You know, I think my biggest takeaway again from the half was he talked about defensive transition. If you take away, some of Bridgewater's cheap baskets in this game, UMass probably has a 15 or 18-point lead. Obviously they don't, but it's encouraging to kind of see where they could be.
All right, how about Bridgewater State? We know they haven't shot the 3-ball well, but what do they need to do?
Yeah, Bridgewater, again, I keep using that word pace. I think they just need to play with a little bit more kind of intensity and pace on the offensive end, move it a little bit better. Defensively, they're not bad. UMass is shooting a high percentage right now.
All right, second half action underway. Beacons will shoot it on the left side. First half, Kevin Lewis-Jean got it started, and he'll get second half action moving too.
And that time we saw UMass with a deep post position like Bridgewater had early in the first half. I think that's the other thing Bridgewater can do too, is really establish the paint with their size, get deep position.
Kevin Lewis-Jean now has 8 points. Wide open look for Raymond from 3. Comes up empty.
And see, that shot's a little deceiving right there. That's an open look, but it's really for a non-shooter. And, and a guy like that's got to understand he's probably open for a reason. And I think UMass is going to give those shots up most of the time.
Out on the break, Beacons have to get back quickly defensively as Kearney lays it in. And by the way, that 3-point attempt by Rayshawn Ward, the miss now makes the Bears 1 for 10 from 3. Minute in, 6-point game. They feed Sinelli. Now Lee off the screen. Calls over Lewis-Jean. Lee to the bucket. Tried to give it off, and Kearney swipes it.
See, I think what Coach Harris is saying over there, too, is you set the screen for a reason. Just use the screen. And, again, I think that's an example of just trying to create offense when you don't have to.
Nifty finish by Carty inside. That's just his second basket. We'll look to see if he's a little bit more aggressive in the second half. He had 24 yesterday against Emerson. Lead is back down to 4. UMass Boston has not trailed for a while in this game, back when it was single digits. Kevin Lewis-Jean, give him 10 points. That's almost automatic from him at this point.
Yeah, it's really consistent shot for him. I've seen him work on that all year, every year for the last 3 years. It's really starting to pay off for him now.
Kearney strong to the cup, regathers his own miss, and collects 2.
And Brendan, one big adjustment you're going to see immediately from Bridgewater defensively is when they get these high ball screens for their guards. We didn't see it there, but they're going to hedge really hard, which is something they weren't doing in the first half.
Boyd, a contested jumper over Kearney. Knocks it down. For Boyd today, he has 10. Third Beacon in double figures. Lewis-Jean has 10, and Charles Mitchell, the game high of 13. This 3, splash, Brian Grant.
And that's just a better 3 right there. That's a post-entry, re-spot up. Take a nice rhythm 3.
Sinelli crashing, couldn't finish. That's just the second made 3 for Bridgewater this afternoon. Nice dribble by DeAndre all the way to the basket, couldn't finish. Carty hustles for his own miss. He's double teamed, and a blocking foul is called. With a couple of free throws by Carty, the Bridgewater State Bears can make it a 1-point game.
And they just look like they're playing with much higher intensity than they did in the first half, right?
Yeah, there's some ferocity in the paint, especially on Carty's side, and it has that vibe based on how it went yesterday. An overtime win over Emerson. As he goes is how the Bears go.
Well, if you're Coach Faroba, you got to be looking at the stats at halftime with your assistants and saying, how are we getting out-rebounded here? And I have no doubt that was what they talked about at halftime.
Faroba in his 26th year. It's a 1-point game. Bridgewater has not led since the opening minutes. I believe when it was a 2-0 game.
They've done.
Sinelli feeds Lewis-Jean, matched up with Carty. Follow Jay, money. Pretty finish, 12 points for Kevin Lewis-Jean. Carney, yes. Now the threes are starting to drop, and we are tied at 45.
And I think that's one of those kind of read the scouting report threes right there. I'm not sure why he was 5-6 feet off of him. And I think that's why they're going to bring Iser Barnes in the game right now.
UMass Boston in its 6th consecutive title game in the Harbor Invitational, and they haven't won since 2012, going for their 9th championship in this Invitational as a program. Now Bridgewater can go for the lead. DeAndre at the point. Sinelli facing up. Carney short. And the rebound down to Boyd.
And they got away with one there. You don't want to let him shoot rhythm threes. You got to get to him much faster.
No question. Down the right side. Good take by Lee. He couldn't finish. On the break, it's Carney. He's been at that all day. And the Bears have the lead. Timeout, Beacons.
Yeah, defensive transition is going to drive Coach Harris absolutely crazy.
First coach's timeout of the second half, so we'll take the break. 47-45, Bridgewater the lead in the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational Championship game. We'll take the break too.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
(47-45), Bridgewater State has its first lead since the opening minutes of first half action. And now UMass Boston out of Jason Harris's timeout. How do they regroup?
You know, we talked about defensive transition a lot since halftime, and I think, you know, you might attribute this a little bit to youth, but UMass got to understand, you get good shots. Good shots allow for defensive balance, the ability to get back. We've seen a couple of bad shots in a row. They lead to leak-outs. You're just giving Bridgewater easy points.
10 to shoot. Iser Barnes, he swung it in the corner. Sinelli gives it back to Barnes. He can't finish. We just looked it up a second ago. Carney, there he is again on that right side, trying to scoop it. He's called for an offensive foul.
I think UMass got away with one there. I'm not sure if he had his feet set or if he was inside the circle. We'll take it.
And now it is the under-16 timeout. Carney, real quick, 13 points, 6 of 10 shooting. He came into the game 1 for 15 from 3 on the season. He is 1 for 3 tonight. 2-point lead for Bridgewater State. We'll take the break. As you just saw there on your screen, make sure you check us out on the social media platforms. Beacons Broadcast Network, happy to present the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational. Yesterday, the Beacons got the win 61-57 in their first ever meeting with Fisher. And here they are in the title game against Bridgewater State, down by 2. Kevin Lewis-Jean lofting it up with the right hand, gets the friendly roll, 14 for the senior. Might have to run the offense through him the rest of the game,
yeah,
Jeff.
He's just so patient on offense right now. He's really doing a great job of taking his time, getting his shot. You know, we talked about Bridgewater earlier, too, when you defend, defend without fouling, but you can be a little more aggressive. He's really kind of getting whatever he wants down there.
Cardi gets his own miss, and Sinelli might have got an all ball, but they give the friendly whistle to Cardi, who goes to the free throw line. Well, right now, you just said it there during the break, that offense has been hard to come by for UMass Boston, a little helter-skelter, but it feels like the matchup of Cardi and Lewis-Jean has dominated the early minutes.
Yeah, and I think you just said it a minute ago. I think UMass is going to want to play more through the post, through the low block for 2 reasons, really. They've had success with it, number 1. And number 2, the last 6 or 7 offensive possessions, UMass just looks like they're playing fast. And not necessarily in a good way. They look like they're rushing and kind of playing with anxiety. I'm sure Coach Harris used that last timeout almost as one of those calming timeouts.
Cardi 1 for 2 at the stripe on that trip. 1-point lead for Bridgewater State.
And with this group in particular, you want to see the offense is going to come from. It's going to come from Mitchell and Boyd. And we talked about them being aggressive earlier. It's going to have to come from those 2.
Here's Hawkins trying to loop around the defense. Sinelli, the extra effort to reset the offense here. Charlie Mitchell. Sinelli pressured at the wing. Now he drives, and a whistle on the floor. They might hit Grant here for his 3rd.
And you can see Bridgewater so much more aggressive on the defensive end around the perimeter. We talked about, lack of ball pressure in the first half. Last couple possessions, you really see them working to speed them up.
So Michael Boyd gets a rest and Charles Mitchell back in, so the brothers are on the floor. The twin brothers, Charlie and Charles, both freshmen. Barnes running the point with Lee off the floor. Barnes to the basket, 2 plus the foul.
And he's so deceiving. I've been down on the court with him. I've played some pickup with him. He is a big, strong, physical body. He's only about 5'10", but he's a big kid.
And he's really been mature, accepting that senior leadership role off of the bench for Jason Harris.
Yeah, when we threw this term around yesterday, when Iser was a little bit younger, he really used to be what you'd call a 50-50 player, where he would, he'd make some kind of head-scratching plays, and then he'd make some terrific plays, particularly on the defensive end. He's really starting to mature and understand the game a lot better. He's all the talent in the world, but his head is really starting to kind of match his skill set.
So is he the UMass Boston Marcus Smart?
I think that's actually a pretty good comparison. He does do all the little things.
Well, there's a guard in this city that plays for the pro team that's had that tossed around, a 50-50 player. 7 minutes into the second half, Beacons by 1.
I thought Coach Harris gave Iser the best compliment you can get as a player. He said, you don't always know what you're going to get from him for 40 minutes, but you can guarantee he's going to be on the court at the end of the game because he competes. I think as a player, that's the best compliment you can get.
Nice give inside, the look from Mercado, and Hannah Warnham, who's been a nice boost off the Bridgewater bench, 22. He'll head to the free throw line. 3rd Beacons foul, both teams with 3 fouls, with a little bit more than 7 minutes into the second half. Lead back to Bridgewater. Charlie Mitchell runs the point with DeAndre covering.
Double screen away for their best shooter there. That's a set that they love. They go to that horn set, guard-to-guard pass, double screen away.
Barnes attacks. He got swatted and couldn't finish. Mitchell, Charles Mitchell, who had a game-high 13 in the first half, has not scored in second half action. Nice pass. Cardi inside to Warnham. Couldn't finish. Goes back up. and one.
Yeah, we've seen this a few times now in the second half. UMass picking up these kind of in-between ticky-tack fouls. I think they're the right calls, but if you're going to give it, just give it.
And I think here with the free throw, this would, nope. That would have given Bridgewater State its largest lead of the day. 12 minutes to play in regulation. Iser Barnes, pull-up jumper. Bounces off the left side, and they'll get a rebound foul here on Charlie Mitchell. A little too aggressive.
And you see everything we kind of talked about Bridgewater not doing in the first half, they're starting to do now. They're extending their pressure, getting pressure on the ball, speeding UMass up, making them take shots they really don't want to take.
Timeout on the floor, 3-point lead for the Bears over the Beacons. We'll come back for more action on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
And welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center, 52-49, Bridgewater State. Alongside Jeff Ebbs, I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for joining us today. It's the championship game of the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational. Beacons have not won this thing in 6 years. 5 years. 2012 was their last championship. And they've won 8 total as a program. And they are looking to go to 4-0 for the first time in 3 years. The shooting percentage not as high as it was in the first half. And here you see Coach Harris going to a full court press. Do you like the call there?
I do. I think they're trying to kind of dictate pace of the game, get it back to their game. I think he's kind of looking for ways to do that.
Bridgewater is now shooting 50% from the floor. They were 48% in the first half, and we were chatting in between breaks. They are trying to get their big men going inside, and there's Warnham traveling.
Yeah, and there's, they kind of got away with one right there. There's really 2 ways. You mentioned a minute ago, Bridgewater trying to play through their bigs right now. Really 2 ways to defend that. You can play from behind and try to push them out, and if you're going to play from in front the way Hawkins is, you have to have backside. We've seen 3 or 4 times now there's been no backside help.
It's Bridgewater's 9th turnover. The putback attempt is good by Hawkins. Beacons have a smaller unit out on the floor. Hawkins is 6'4". He's going to be the center of this group.
And nobody else over 6 feet.
The Mitchell twins, as Carty goes right at him and lays it in. Naturally a left-hander, and he went all the way down that left lane.
Yeah, and that can't happen. You can't let a non-guard, a non-ball handler go the length of the court for a layup.
Tylee is back in, over the shoulder feed, and Hawkins does the rest. Beacons down 1. Both teams trading baskets as the Beacons maintain the full court press. DeAndrade stays on the pivot foot and now sets up the offense. Harney Warnham sets the screen, and a 3 buried by DeAndrade. The lead is 4 for Bridgewater. Charlie Mitchell with the stutter step, gliding inside, but couldn't finish, and a couple of reserves checking in. It's Barnes and Barnes and Taylor coming in. Four-point game. We are exactly midway through second half action. Strong take by Boyd. Doesn't get the friendly bounce.
And what you're seeing right now, UMass in the first half, they had a lot of success attacking the basket and getting all the way to the basket. Bridgewater's doing a great job of bringing aggressive help now. You attack against aggressive help, you got to make that extra pass.
Carney drives, kicks out, and it set up Ward, but he's called for a travel. I'm not sure about you, but I've noticed early part of the college basketball season, officials are definitely taking travels more into account here.
Yeah, I know at all levels it's been a big point of emphasis, and the big one that you're starting to see now is that shuffle travel around the three-point line. And that can be frustrating as a player because you get used to doing it, and now they're calling it pretty consistently.
Barnes stops, almost runs into his man Boyd.
And here you see it again, aggressive help. We got away with a foul there, but that's aggressive help. You'd like to see him look opposite corner there is going to be open on that help.
And they'll get the foul on Hannah Warnham. That's his third. Grant has 3. Hannah Warnham, has 3. Charlie Mitchell has 3 for UMass Boston, and Desan Sinelli has 3 as well. So, and Kevin Lewis-Jean, pardon me for not mentioning this, he's got 4. So that was why he was off the floor. So Kevin Lewis-Jean remains on the bench with 4 fouls.
And I think
he's a perfect, sorry, Jeff, he's a perfect 6 for 6 from the field, 7 for 7 from the field today with 14 points.
I think you'll see him back in the next couple minutes. He's a guy you can count on to defend without fouling when he has to.
And they'll get Iser Barnes with the block. That is UMass Boston's 6th as a team. So one more from 1-1. Fouls were not a point of emphasis in the first half, and they're picking up here for both sides in second half play.
I think you can see Coach Harris try to work that official right there on the coach's box to let these guys be a little more aggressive in this press.
Right out of the inbounds play. Bears in a hurry. The feed, Hannah Warnham back up, and he is fouled, attempting an up and under move.
Yeah, and that's just too easy. As a big man on defense, you got to do your work early. You know he's down there, he's posting for a reason, he's going to get the ball. You got to do your work early and drive him out. Now, I remember even as a guard playing against bigger players, you know, you always want to put your knee right between his thighs and drive him out. You can usually do that without your hands. You can get away with a lot down there.
Hannah Warnham with a game high, 16 points. He's 6 of 7 at the line. 5 of 6 from the field. He has 6 rebounds. This is all off the bench. He makes both free throws, and the lead is back to 4. Heading into the game, Hannah Warnham was playing he only played 1 game before today, 16 minutes yesterday, and he went 3 for 3 from the field. He scored 6 points. He's making an instant impact as Michael Boyd comes back to make it a 2-point game. It's a pretty big lift off the bench for a guy who's only played in 1 game.
Yeah, and that can be frustrating sometimes as a player. You do your work, you read the scouts, and you think you know what you're getting. Too easy right there.
Great backdoor. Dimitri St. Louis, sophomore from Brockton, laying it in. Turned over. Here comes St. Louis. Kicks out. DeAndre, money from 3. Largest lead of the game for Bridgewater, 64-57, and a timeout for UMass Boston with 8:14 to play.
Yeah, it's a critical piece of the game coming up right here. It looks, you know, they can't let this game get away from them. They're going to need a basket out of this timeout.
We will keep it here. Just a 30-second timeout. Does it result in a media? I don't think so, so we'll keep it here. Well, how about this run by the Bears?
Yeah, you know, the biggest thing I'm noticing right now, and Coach Harris mentioned it at halftime about a couple of guys, but I think you can apply it to the whole team, is he talked about don't let your defense get dictated by your shooting percentage. In the first half, you saw a lot of shots going down for UMass. You would see them get back, have an opportunity to set their defense, and really dig in and get stops. Bridgewater's turned up their defense. UMass struggling a little bit on offense, and you see them getting easy baskets in transition now. You can't let one side affect the other. If UMass locks in and defends the way that they can, they're going to stay in this game, but it's starting to get away from them right now.
So we told you Hannah Warnham's got 17 to lead all scores. 7 for 8 at the line. Other big scoring games. Bridgewater State's Rocky DeAndre, he just made that 3. He's got 10 points.
I can remember that being a frustrating experience as a player. I remember one game in particular, we played Eastern Connecticut in a a conference game, in the last third of the year, and they had a couple guys that you knew were their scorers. And we actually did a great job on those two in particular, and they had a guy who came off the bench, and I think he got us for about 28. And I don't think he had 28 points all season at that point. So I remember that was really frustrating to take that loss for that reason.
Kearney has 13 for UMass Boston. Charles Mitchell with 13. Michael Boyd has 14. And Kevin Lewis-Jean with 14. He is not back in the game just yet. Coming up on 8 minutes to play.
Bridgewater's defensive intensity is through the roof right now. Trapping the corners.
Lee catches in the corner, drives. The Euro step does not work. Too many steps to travel, just like we were talking about.
And again, that's that defensive intensity, though, too. It speeds you up. You see them trapping the corners. You get forced to make quick decisions, play a little faster than you want to, and those are the little mistakes. I will say Bridgewater's grabbed control of this game. They're playing their game right now.
They've also made 4 threes in this half. They had just 1 made 3 in the first half. DeAndrade's made 2 out of 3. Hannah Warnham got it poked away out of bounds. Of course, the point, and many around college basketball, we were just discussing how we watch a lot of college basketball ourselves away from the game. The whole point of these invitationals and tournaments to get ready for conference play. Little East play, of course, for the Beacons, out of the nice play by St. Louis, and of course for these Bears and MASCAC action.
Yeah, you want to get them all, but we always used to talk about how there's 14 that matter, and those will be coming up later on. You really want to get those ones, and the intensity in those games, you want to play some intense games early because the intensity of those games, there's nothing like it.
Jeff played for the Beacons from 2008 to 2012. Charlie Mitchell, the head fake, sets up the jumper. The tip-in is no good by the Beacons back inside. Still a loose ball. Mitchell trying to push it away from a couple of Bears. And the jump ball results in Bridgewater possession.
Now the UMass side right there, you love the effort and intensity and the hustle to get to the rim. What you do want to learn to do is go up, grab it with 2 hands, give yourself an extra possession. You saw 3 or 4 guys going up there, tip, 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 and we end up with nothing.
Tell you what's also really impressive. Bridgewater's already scored 35 points in this half. They were trailing by 6, and now they're up by 9.
Yeah, they've really, they've changed on both ends of the court. They're getting a lot of their stuff in transition. When they do get forced to play in the half court, they're executing really well. And like you said, they're playing through their bigs.
Under 7 to play, second half, 9-point lead for Bridgewater. It's the first time these two are ever meeting in the Harbor Invitational. 3 to shoot. DeAndrade's got to let it go. Fires. Almost got it in. Here's Charles Mitchell. Out to Boyd. 3. Short. Hustles for his own miss. Poked away. St. Louis to the rim. Counted in a foul.
Couple things that you just can't deal with right there. The obvious transition basket. Also the foul. That's just not a foul that you can have right there. Give them an extra point. There's no value in fouling from behind. Nothing good can come from it. One thing I've been frustrated with, particularly in the second half watching here, is UMass, forced into a lot of shots they don't want to take. And that happens sometimes, but there's been no defensive balance. You've got to be able to rotate a guard up to above the 3-point line, at least one, and make sure you have numbers back.
The lead is 12.
Right there you had the shooter trying to follow his own shot. No guards above the 3-point line.
Bridgewater is outscoring UMass Boston by 18 in the second half. Feed to the paint. Bounce pass, Boyd to Kevin Lewis-Jean. He got slapped on the wrist. And free throws are coming.
That's actually one of the better possessions we've seen in a while. Bridgewater going back to that 2-3 zone. It's also been interesting, I know, traditionally with the roster that Bridgewater will bring, they love to play a lot of 2-3 zone. They'll play some 3-2, some 1-3-1 back when I was playing. They've switched back and forth almost possession by possession between a switching man and a 2-3 zone.
Kevin Lewis-Jean's perfect shooting night continues. 15 points, his first free throw attempts of the night. The senior trying to make it a 10-point game. Right from his spot.
Excuse me. That's it's a lot for a young guard to handle too. To not only know your systems and your sets and how you want to play, but then to have to come up and understand what you're looking at every possession. I have no doubt that was a halftime adjustment by Coach Faroba.
Beacons fall out of the press. DeAndre, triple try, good. He's got 3 made threes today.
And that's the risk you run with that full court pressure, is if they get it over the top, they're going to end up with an open shooter.
13 now for Bridgewater. You can just see that the drastic differences defensively at the top of that zone.
Yeah.
5 to shoot. Mitchell. Too strong. Rebound falls right in place. And they dish it to Kevin Lewis-Jean. A whistle was on the floor, on the block before the putback.
I think the big change you're seeing in 2-3 zone, you just touched on it a little bit, is in the first half they had the entirety of the zone stretched out. They were really extending their zone. Right now what you're going to see is the man defending the ball will extend out beyond the three-point line. Everybody else almost has a foot in the paint. And they make a pass around the perimeter, you get a hard closeout, and the other guy drops.
UMass Boston now shooting just 43%. They've only made 9 shots in this half as opposed to 15. There's a big one. Kevin Lewis-Jean, his big night continues. He's got 18 points.
And every stop is critical now. They're going to stay in this full court pressure. They get it over the top, and they end up with numbers.
St. Louis going way too hard. He's calling for an offensive foul.
You know, we got a basket on that last possession against the zone. And, you know, the ball is moving, but you got to get ball and body movement. You're not seeing a lot of body movement right now.
And just hearing the PA announcer, I guess it's St. Louis, so apologies. Dimitri St. Louis, who's really come on in this half alone. He was not a name we called much of in the first half. And I think what they've done here, and they've definitely fed their post players a lot more, but they're taking the pressure off Cardi because they've let other guys get involved here tonight.
Yeah.
11-point game, about 4.5 to play now. Charles Mitchell connecting from 3.
Yeah, and I think Coach Harris probably saw the same thing we were just talking about. As you saw, they started that possession with a little false motion, make a guard-to-wing pass, a back screen, a cut through. That makes a big difference when you're trying to move the defense.
Down to 8. First bucket for Mitchell in the second half. He's got 16 for the game. Now there's under 10 to shoot. DeAndre, kick out, big 3, another one for the Bears. Mercado, freshman off the bench. That's quite the response right there.
Yeah, they're coming in bunches right now. Bridgewater really hitting all their threes right now.
The Bears were 1 for 9 in the first half from 3. Boyd, he's got a couple threes made tonight. Bridgewater State is now 7 of 18 from 3. So if my math's right, they are 6 for 9 from 3 in the second half. An offensive foul against the Bears. It's a pretty drastic difference. 1 for 9, now 6 for 9.
Yeah, and again, I just think they're getting better ball movement right now. Some of that is getting created by UMass's full court pressure, but when they do have it in the half court, they're moving the ball much better.
Our final break in the action will come back. It's a 9-point lead for Bridgewater State. The Beacons need a comeback in order to capture their 9th ever UMass Boston Harbor Invitational Title. Come back for the rest.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
.328 to play, second half. 75-64, Bridgewater State leading UMass Boston. The Beacons had a 6-point lead at halftime, and Bridgewater State has outscored the Beacons by 17 in the second half. Jeff Ebbs alongside. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for sticking with us during the action. Beacons need a comeback. They want to get their first Harbor Invitational title in 5 years as Charlie Mitchell front rims the jumper. Full court press is still on. Lobbed over the top, nearly created the turnover. And Mercado, the freshman, will inbound. Was it a 10-second violation?
It is, yeah. I think they're looking at the shot clock right now at 20 before they just reset it.
So for the most part, I feel the officials have been solid tonight. They've a couple of situations they might have misread, and that one they quickly fixed the mistake. Under 3 to play. Kevin Lewis-Jean has been perfect from the field. He'll kick out to Mitchell. Charles Mitchell steps into one and rattles home a 3.
It's a big-time shot.
He's got 19 for the game. He and Kevin Lewis-Jean have been the main sources of offense. They create the turnover. Down 8 with 2.5 to go. Ten on the shot clock. Mitchell, floater, rattles in, and a timeout for Bridgewater State. It's a 6-point game.
Yeah, and this is one thing we talked about yesterday at the end of the game when they were having a hard time closing out Fishers. The more games they play, they're going to start to figure out who are your go-to guys down the stretch, who wants the ball, who wants the shot. Charles Mitchell's stepping up right now.
Well, as much as you want to move the basketball, and on the timeout, we'll keep it right here with 2:10 to play. Sometimes you got to let your playmakers get you back in the game.
Yeah, you have to have shot makers, right? And I think, UMass right now, they have a lot of guys that I know that when they move the ball well and they get rhythm shots, they can make shots. You have to have shot makers, guys that can do it off the dribble, get their own shot, make tough shots. Almost think like J.R. Smith in the NBA for the Cavaliers. He's, I know he's an easy guy to poke fun at, but the reason why he has a role on that team is he's one of the few guys that's a shot maker for them. Every team, if you want to win at a high level, you're going to play in these close games, and you need those guys.
75-69. Mitchell has a game-high 21 points, 8 of 14 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3. Michael Boyd's got 14. Kevin Lewis-Jean, 18 points, and just 2 rebounds, but it's a perfect 8 for 8 from the floor. Well, clearly, Jeff, Beacon's got to get stops here, too, down the stretch here.
Yeah, and you see this pressing group. This is probably the best pressing group you could put on the floor right now. They got 5 guards out there. They're going to obviously try to create a turnover here. They've done it 2 times in a row.
The Mitchell brothers are on the floor with Sinelli, Boyd, and Lee. DeAndre gives to Carney.
There it is again.
Trying to move too quickly, and the Bears turn it over with 2 minutes left. Charles Mitchell is feeling it. Step back 3, short. Yeah. This place would have erupted if he made that.
Yeah, I know he's feeling it right now, but that's that's one that you probably want back. You talk about time and score, just under 2 minutes down by 6. There's plenty of time.
And Rayshawn Ward got fouled. Tylee's second foul, and he doesn't like the whistle. So here's Ward. He'll try to pad this lead for the Bears.
You're going to see Coach Harris go to a little offense-defense right now. They'll bring in Lewis-Jean on the offensive end.
Bridgewater, despite that miss, has been very impressive at the line, 12 of 16. The Beacons this evening at the free throw line, 6 for 7. So the Bears nearly doubling UMass Boston in free throws.
You got to have this rebound now, too. We gave up 2 of these yesterday to Fisher at the end of the game.
Lead to 7 with 1:49 left. Boyd open for 3. too strong. He was hot in the beginning of the game. And off the deflection of DeAndre, Beacons maintain the basketball.
And unless you can get a nice open rhythm three, you'd like to see them get to the basket right here, put the pressure on them. Bridgewater's not going to want to foul. You should be able to get to the rim and get a good look at it.
90 seconds to play. Lee, bounce pass in. Sinelli, strong take. They must have heard you.
And there it is. You can see he gets right there. He didn't want to foul. He's going to go hand straight up. You can expect that the rest of the game from Bridgewater.
5-point game. It took overtime yesterday. It should be backcourt. Beacons create the steal. And they'll keep the ball moving. Here's Mitchell. Spots up for three. Too strong. Minutes ago, Kevin Lewis-Jean on the deflection. His first miss of the day. Goes back up and gets the basket plus the foul.
And listen, all that is right there, that's just playing hard. There were a lot of ugly things about that possession, but again, if you just play hard, 40 minutes play hard, you're going to keep yourself in a game.
It took overtime for Bridgewater State to beat Emerson yesterday. You mentioned how it got a little crazy down the stretch for UMass Boston to edge Fisher. And now Kevin Lewis-Jean with a free throw with 56 seconds left can make it a 2-point game. Timeout for Coach Faroba on the Bridgewater side.
And what you're seeing from UMass right now, they're going to have the ability to do this consistently when they need to. It reminds me of that kind of organized chaos from Bruce Pearl's Tennessee teams. I know you and I both fans of college basketball, and if you think back to those Tennessee teams 7-8 years ago, this is exactly what they would do. Is they would play 94 feet, they would create havoc, create chaos, and beat you like this. I think it's a weapon we're going to be able to have, UMass, when they need to.
So let's try and dissect what the discussions are right now. What is it right now for Bridgewater?
For Bridgewater right now, they're going to talk about the press break, moving it with a pass and not the dribble. You're seeing them run into a lot of trouble trying to break it with the dribble and getting back tap from behind. So I have no doubt Coach Faroba is just focusing on breaking this press. On the UMass side, they're doing the exact opposite. They're going to make this free throw, assume a make, and set your press and try to create another one. They'll have a contingency plan for if they do have to play in the half court.
Senior Kevin Lewis-Jean got his own miss and went right back up. That was his first miss of the day. 9 of 10 from the field, 20 points. He is 2 for 2 at the free throw line tonight.
If he makes this, you're going to see him make this. You'll see all Beacon guards get in front between the ball and the man, try to force something over the top. Those are the passes you want them to throw.
Cardi is down on the block with that was Rayshawn Ward. Free throw made, 2-point game. Offense for defense. Defense for offense as Lewis-Jean comes out. Beacons obviously do not have to foul. Bad pass by Cardi. That's happened a couple of times. He attempts that soccer pass over the head, and he whistled it out of bounds.
Yeah, and that's just carelessness right there. We've talked a lot in the second half about some of the Beacon guards getting sped up. You see Bridgewater now just playing faster than they want to.
UMass Boston has not won a Harbor Invitational in 5 years, down 2. Looking to tie or take the lead. Lewis-Jean against Cardi. Short on the turnaround. Couldn't finish. And Sinelli is called for a blocking foul on the near sideline.
Yeah, and he's not happy about it, but honestly, that's probably the best thing that could have happened. If they get that over half court, you want to give it right away anyway. So give it early, extend this game out. Bridgewater's been struggling at the line the last few minutes.
You got anywhere to be? Because this could be a while.
I can watch this all day. This is a good game.
We could be playing make and foul for the next 31 seconds. DeAndre is at the free throw line.
And these are the games.
I almost caught you there, by the way.
Win, lose, or draw. These are the games that for a young group that they're going to grow you up. These are invaluable experiences that you need. You need to play in these games. You'll be seeing a lot of these in conference almost every week.
That is the first make from the free throw line for DeAndre. Beacons were picked to finish 4th in Little East this year. Bridgewater State should be one of the best in the MASCAC again. Couple of free throws makes it a 4-point game. 1 second differential shot and game clock. Here's Lee all the way to the hole. Scoops for 2. On the press break, here is Grant to the basket. He lays it in to make it 4 again. Not enough time to foul there.
You just can't have that, right? You got to know, you got to get somebody back even in these situations.
Sinelli can't finish. Louis Jean cleans up. Sinelli's blocked. Bridgewater State has the basketball. They come out of it with Carney. And Lee shoves him to issue the foul with 8 seconds left.
Yeah, and Coach Harris desperately wants a goaltend there. I'm not sure that he's wrong either. The ball was up on the rim. You saw, I think somebody got their hand in the net. You can't do that when it moves the rim. So
he's got the arm over the official.
Yeah, I don't blame him for wanting that one.
And he is going to lose his case here. 80-76, and Ryan Carney can ice this one for Bridgewater.
No, back to that last possession there. Good job by the Beacons. Ty Lee getting into the lane, finishing a layup. You know, knowing Bridgewater's not going to foul. You got to get somebody back, though. You can't just give it right back.
These are Carney's first attempts at the line today. 1 of 2, 5-point game. They'll now go offense for defense here. They know they need jump shots, so Charlie Mitchell comes in. No one's covering him. Mitchell on the head fake, lays it in with 4.5 seconds. Thought he got fouled there too, as Carney gets harassed by Charles Mitchell.
Yeah, he might have taken it off the head. I love the decision, though, to get to the basket. I think a lot of times in exactly that situation, down 2 possessions,
you just pull up.
You feel like you need the 3. What happens here, you get to the basket, again, they're not going to want to give a foul. You put the pressure on him to make these free throws.
Just told you, Carney was at the line for the first time. He went 1 for 2 in that trip. 4-point game. That's a big one. Head-to-head, these two teams have won their fair share of games. 18 for UMass Boston, 16 for Bridgewater. In and out. Here's Charles Mitchell in the final seconds. Pulls up. It was well late. And that'll do it. Bridgewater State was down 6 at the half. And they outscore UMass Boston by 10 in the second half to pull out the win, 82-78. And they also capture the 33rd Annual Harbor Invitational. Nice comeback win for Bridgewater. Got to give him credit.
Yeah, you know, I was pretty critical of him in the first half on both ends, particularly the defensive end, as far as a lack of pressure and kind of dictating the game. They really turned it up in the second half, forced it to be their game, sped those young UMass guards up. They definitely took that win.
All right, we'll take a break and then come back to break this one down. Beacons fall in the Harbor Invitational Championship game, 82-78 to Bridgewater State.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
The UMass Boston Beacons baseball team, who went 23-15 this year, and have consistently been a leader in their conference without having a home field to play on. That will change next season.
I am so happy and excited to join Boston College High School and your wonderful president to celebrate this symbol.
All right, welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center. The Beacons fall to the Bridgewater State Bears. Rocky DeAndrade was just given MVP of the Invitational. So yesterday in the win over Emerson in 41 minutes, he scored 11 points and had 4 assists on 4 rebounds. Tonight he goes for 15. He goes for 15 points tonight. in the victory. The rest of his line, 5 of 9 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. He also had 5 rebounds and 4 assists. A real complete effort to give them a 4-point win. So we'll take a look at some of the numbers in just a moment here between the Beacons and Bridgewater. Of course, Bridgewater, and like you said a moment ago, Jeff, this team in the second half looked a lot more like the Bridgewater teams you're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, it's, the way I just put it a minute ago was it looked a lot like every other Bridgewater team I've ever played against. They move the ball rapidly, they spread you out, they knock down open threes. DeAndre was certainly their shot maker in the second half. We talked a little bit about that, so well-deserved MVP for him. But I think that's a good experience for UMass. That's a lot of what they're going to see as they continue to play more veteran teams. They're going to play teams that move the ball well, that make open shots, that will turn up the intensity defensively. So they're going to need a lot of that. It's a good experience for them.
All right, we'll take a look now at the second half highlights from this one as we get the numbers updated in just a moment. And we'll flash those to you in a moment here on your screen as we take a look. These are from the second half specifically.
And I'm sure what you're going to see a lot of here is a lot of these open transition baskets. Bridgewater was really the team. It's funny, we talked about keys of the game, and Coach Faroba talked about controlling their athleticism. I thought Bridgewater really showcased some of their athleticism, rebounding, getting out in transition.
Iser Barnes was a good spark plug at the beginning of the half, and then they went to work inside. We saw St. Louis really dominate. Hannah Warnham was really good off the bench. She had a really big game. And a lot of what we saw, Kevin Lewis-Jean and Charles Mitchell got the Beacons back in this one.
Yeah, and they did start to wear him down. I thought early in the game, UMass did a great job of gang rebounding, winning the boards on both sides. But you saw as the course of the game, wore on. Bridgewater really wore them down, got a lot of second chance opportunities.
And these next two highlights here are the Beacons coming back, making it a game. Kevin Lewis-Jean collecting his own miss. You talked about it there a second ago. The effort plays out of the senior to keep this one tight all the way down the stretch. So that game could have easily gotten away from them with about 6 minutes left.
Yeah, what you do like about UMass, not every result is going to go their way, but if you're Coach Harris, the one thing that you do have to be happy about is this team has no quit in them from what I've seen so far. They play really hard. They play hard for 40 minutes, and that's going to keep them in a lot of games. And all you want as a young group is the opportunity to win at the end of games. And you got to earn it. Earn it through the first 35 minutes. I thought they did that tonight.
All right, here are the final numbers. So Bridgewater ends up shooting 58% from the floor. They were at 48% at the end of the first half. Their three-point percentage ends up outlasting the Beacons. They were just 1 for 9 in the first half. They made 6 or 7 threes in the second half. Beacons got to the free throw line a lot less, but the percentage is there. And look what you said. Beacons had a 1 rebound edge at halftime. They get out-rebounded by 7 in the second half.
Yeah, they get out-rebounded by 7. And, that's a pretty low rebound game. You'll see a lot of times those rebound numbers will be in the mid-40s or even the low 50s. So it's a low rebound game, and largely because both teams shot a decent percentage. So to lose by 7 in a single half, that was significant.
All right, and look, the Beacons, to their credit, defensively, they forced 17 turnovers, a lot of those coming down the stretch of this one in that full-court press. We'll get the game leaders in just a moment. As the Beacons fell today by 4, they go to 3-1. Bridgewater improves to 4-2. They should be one of the better teams in the MASCAC. Again, the Beacons are picked 4th in Little East.
And I think when you look at those stats, too, they almost bear out exactly what we had talked about pregame is, I'm not sure UMass is going to out-rebound a lot of teams. I'm not sure they're going to outshoot you. It's how many extra opportunities can you create? Can you create enough turnovers? Can you have 10, 12, 15 more possessions than the other team and win games like that? And that's what they tried to do today. They came up just a little bit short.
All right, we'll have those numbers for you in a moment. Another thing the Beacons did well in this game was just their fight, and we talked a lot about that just a second ago, fighting to stay in the game. Mitchell had been scoreless, Charles Mitchell, for most of the second half. He makes a couple of threes to bring him back in, and then Kevin Lewis-Jean, even with the 4 fouls, he has to sit out for most of that second half, and then he comes in for some help. So we'll get to the team leaders.
And UMass, without question, they take on the personality of their coach. I don't think you're going to see them You're not going to see them get run out of the gym too much where they get down by 12, 15, 20. They're going to stay in a lot of these games. And I think you saw a couple times tonight where he was pretty quick with the timeout. When it would get to 5 or 7, he'd take a quick one and keep him in it.
And you see Mitchell led all scorers with 21, so didn't Kevin Lewis-Jean. He also dropped 21. Hannah Warnham off the bench had 17. We didn't see him down the stretch, but I think that was for defensive purposes because they wanted to keep some speed on the floor. In the rebounding department, Beacons had a couple with 6. Ward had 8 for Bridgewater. All right, let's look ahead as we look at the team's schedule going forward. And the Beacons will head to, they'll host MIT for the third game in a row at home. MIT on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. You can catch that one right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network, and then a trip to Keene State to get conference play underway on December 2nd. And then later in the week on December 5th, later the following week, they'll take on Pine Manor College. All right, so that will do it for our coverage today from the Clark Athletic Center. The Beacons fall in the 33rd Annual Clark Harbor Invitational Championship game, 82-78. For our entire crew, as well as Jeff Ebbs, my name is Brendan Glasheen saying so long. Beacons fall. We'll catch you on Tuesday night when MIT comes to the Clark Athletic Center.